Peach Pundit, the podcast, is a conversation filled with the personal opinions of the people who are participating. Any view or opinion expressed belongs only to the person who expressed it and not with anyone with whom that person is professionally affiliated. Welcome back for another quick hit podcast. Again, continuing our coverage of the state election board and the dysfunction that's coming out of that organization. Things that we should all be care about. If you are a nerd like me, of course you're concerned, because in our last video, I highlighted how a member of the state election board, Janelle King, articulated a scenario where she believed, essentially articulated vote buying was okay, so long as a campaign was trying to buy all the votes, not just some of them. I believe she called it a portion. You can't make this up. But that moment from the hearing was just one example of how dysfunction has really infected this board and how dysfunctional it has become. This is where we will allow former State Representative James Mill to come into the scene. He is a gentleman who now serves as the new executive director of the state election board. I will just tell you that I do not know Representative Mills, do not recall ever meeting him, but I found myself in agreement with him at times during his testimony, especially when he was highlighting aspects of how certain responsibilities of the board and individual qualifications of members has created a lot of opportunity for the board to be set up for failure. Unfortunately, those areas of agreement are not the subject of this video, although I do hope that I'll be able to explore some of those for a future project. I found Representative Mills to carry himself with a spirit of grace. He's obviously well practiced at delivering heavy news. And honestly, my first impression of him was that I think I might like to study the Bible with the guy. I mean, that's just the way he came across. He has a very gentle delivery. So let's get right into it. You'll see what I'm talking about. And because we're going to start with the video of his opening statement to the Blue Ribbon Study Committee on Election Process. This took place on August 28th.
What I'm about to say to you, my words are measured, and I do not take them lightly. And I do not mean them as pointed as they may sound, but they are true.
Oh boy. We're 17 seconds in, and anyone from the South can feel what's coming next. But you get what I was saying about that gentle delivery now, don't you? You don't go over the top with phrases like, I don't mean my words to be as pointed as they may sound, without being about to drop the heaviest freaking hammer you could possibly imagine.
After almost 30 years of being in and out of the state, I've never served under a more dysfunctional, dishonest chairman than Chairman John Fervier.
And there's that hammer, baby. Holy cow.
Now, please don't, I don't want that claps, and that should not be clapped. That should grieve our hearts. And it grieves mine to have to say that. And I only say that to this committee because you deserve to know. You deserve to know. I'm 62 years old. I don't have to have this job. I'm fine without it. But you know what? I feel committed and a call to do it because I've been called upon and asked to do it, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. I'm not up here to play politics. I'm not up here to play games. I want to tell you the truth. And that's the truth, and it grieves me to say that. I take no joy in that. But it's the truth. Go back and just watch our last meeting on YouTube.
Thank you for that suggestion, Rep. Mills. Just tell me what I should be looking for so I can go and join you in this skewering of this most dishonest chairman you've ever served under. That guy, honestly, at this point, he sounds like a complete ass. So let's grab the pitchforks and the torches and just tell me where the part is. It's proof that he's such a liar, because I mean, 30 years in state government. That's wow. I mean, credible. Let's go get him. Just tell me where.
When a motion was made to pass a measure by the board, the motion passed, and I asked for clarification about the motion.
I wonder why he wasn't specific about what the motion was.
And I said, now, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure that when this passes, if I contact the Secretary of State's office, that you're not going to be working behind the scenes. And he said, are you accusing me? I said, no, I'm not accusing. I'm just giving it as an example. No, and here's what he said. Go back and look at it. He said, I'll take it under consideration. I asked the question again, and he said, I'll take it under consideration.
Okay, so I found the clip, and I'm going to play it for you, but you need some context first. We're talking about how this board is dysfunctional, which is a friendly way of saying it is one hot mess. Jan Johnston is, in this video I'm about to play, is making a motion to give Rep. Mills, who is the executive director of the board, the responsibility of scheduling future meetings for the state election board. The code says that the board may have him schedule those meetings, but that does not absolve the chairman of his responsibilities. It doesn't absolve him of notifying the board of those meetings. So he still has a role to play there. This is to make sure the board can't cut the chairman out of the process of scheduling meetings. And I won't bore you with the nerdy details on that, but it's a requirement under open meetings laws that chairman does this.
All right, Mr. Chair, I have a motion concerning the meeting date, time, and place.
Okay,
I make a motion that the executive director, James Mills, be given the approval and consent of the board to schedule date, time, and place of board meetings, to contact the Secretary of State IT if necessary directly, to post meetings that are called by the chair or any two board members.
So it's pretty simple. That was her motion. This is what the debate was about.
and I believe that the statute says that the chairman of the board notifies the board of the time and date of meetings.
The statute says that the chair notifies the board of time and place of meetings.
Correct.
And does not say date.
How do you notify of time and place if you don't include the date? Maybe it'll make sense. Let's keep watching.
I would like to make a motion that Executive Director Mills will schedule date, time, and place of board meetings. And it is still the duty of the chair to notify the board members of such.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
I'm not entirely confident that that is congruent with the statute. So I oppose because I'm not confident that it adheres to our statutory obligations.
That last voice you heard was Sarah Gazal, who is the Democratic member of the board, and she's raising a point. I don't know really all the ins and outs of this, but basically now the discussion is about the potential legality of the motion, because there appears to be some conflict in the code, which on the fly, you put yourself in that situation, on the fly is sort of difficult to navigate. You have the notification duties of the chairman and potential for scheduling to be done by Representative Mills in his capacity as the executive director of the board. But it's important to note as well that as this exchange goes on, that three of the members had discussed this motion ahead of time with each other without consulting the other two. You'll see that for yourself as the meeting continues, but what functional boards do is communicate to one another. They don't wait until the board meeting to have this discussion, but it's very clear that while casting this vote, the chairman explained, and the chairman does explain himself. He isn't sure the motion's legal or not, and he expresses that up with support of the idea of talking to the attorney general. But that's really the scenario that we're dealing with here.
The chair will exercise his right to vote and will vote no too, because I believe that the AG would agree, but I'll inquire with AG about that. So the motion carries 3-2.
Okay, so now here comes Representative Mills with the part he told the Blue Ribbon Committee he was asking about for clarification on this motion. And I want you to listen to both his inquiry and how John Fervier responds to him.
Can I ask a question? Because I want to make sure what y'all are asking me to do, one. But I will say that the code says this is 21-2-30-3. With the consent of the board, schedule the time, location of all meetings and hearings, as well as maintain a schedule of all meetings and hearings available for the public review. That is under the duties of the executive director in that code section. But I work for the board, and I say to the board, I'm willing to do whatever the board wants me to do. I'm only pointing out that is what it says in the code.
All right, the motion was made and was voted on by a vote of 3-2. So
Unless you are trying to create drama, that's it. This is done. The motion was made, it was seconded, it was voted on, it passed 3-2. It should have been done right here. But like I said, unless you're trying to create drama.
So my question would be, I guess, you've already voted on the meetings for September 23rd and December 9th and 10th. Is that?
no vote is taking place on that.
When is the board's next meeting?
Well, the chair had scheduled meetings for the 23rd and 24th of September and the 9th and 10th of December. That is when the Secretary of State's office is available to hold those meetings. So if you want to do them other dates, the Secretary of State will not be available to attend those meetings, the investigators.
So in this part, Fervier is explaining that since the purpose of future meetings this year are to clear the much talked about case backlog, that they'll need the investigators from the Secretary of State to attend. You see, the State Election Board has been focused very much on rulemaking and relitigating really old things, but not clearing this 300 plus case backlog that they've had. So in order to clear those cases, they need the investigators that have done the investigative work to be present. And the schedule had been worked around to accommodate those investigator schedules. But then King chimes in with this.
Well, you have to inquire. You wouldn't know that.
Well, I did because I got when they were available.
But
And they said
every
that that they have other obligations too. And those were the dates that they were available to hold meetings. So, I mean, feel free to inquire with them if you want to.
I don't have a problem with keeping those meetings in place. But should we need to have a special call meeting or an executive session or something of that nature, we will now reach out to an executive director, Mills.
Janelle King may not know it here at this point, but she's actually playing with a serious amount of fire. What it looks like to me, and I'm someone who is a little bit more than the casual observer, that the intent here is to be able to call special meetings without the chairman. Even if the executive director is scheduling meetings, they still need to get the buy-in of the chair. The law is very clear about that. And for all you nerds out there, I went ahead and pulled the code section for you. So here it is. Take your notes. OCGA 21-2-30, subsection E, which reads, the chairperson shall notify the members of the board of the time and place of the meetings of the board and shall preside at such meetings. So Janelle is sort of forecasting. We want to have executive sessions, or we want to be able to have other meetings, and we don't want to have to go through the chair. But the law says the chair has to be involved in these decisions, and you can't get around that. Even if you're delegating the scheduling to the executive director, you cannot get around that. So she's playing with fire. But again, Fervier attempts to move on. You'll see that in a second. I'm going to cut out Member Gazal's comments here for brevity, because all she really did was point out the strain the existing schedule puts on her day job. But immediately after that, Mills pipes up again.
Is there any further comments on that?
I did have a question about just the method of this. If I'm going to be asked to do this, then as I understand the method works now, the chairman calls over to SOS, the attorney for the Secretary of State, and gets those dates put on the website. And she contacts SOS IT, then they put it on the website. But that doesn't happen unless you make the call. And so my question to the board is, and to the chairman, if I make the call, because you've asked me to, if I do that, then what is the proper protocol? Am I going to be recognized when I call over to the Secretary of State's office to have that authority to say, hey, here's a date that they'd like to meet? And I'm simply asking a question.
I mean, that's the understanding. That's why we took this step, to ensure that it is on the record that you are responsible for that. So yes, they should respond to you.
So this time it was King who responded to Representative Mills. Fervier is off camera, but he isn't saying anything. At this point, the board has voted. The motion carried. King tells Mills they're passing the motion to make it clear that Mills has the authority to contact the Secretary of State. It should be over. The whole time, Fervier is trying to just move on. But watch Mills. He goes right back after Fervier.
Mr. Chairman, do you see any issues there? If
I can't answer for the Secretary of State.
I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you, do you see any issues?
Would you support him? Would you back up this decision should the Secretary of State push back on responding to our executive director after this decision has been made?
Mills asks the chairman if there are going to be any issues, but Janelle King throws in a hypothetical. Remember, at this point, it is clear that two things have occurred. The first is that 3 members of this board coordinated this effort with the executive director without discussing it with the chairman ahead of time, or Member Gazal. It's very clear that 2 of the members were completely taken unaware by what they were planning to do. They had no time to consider the ramifications of what they were being asked to do, and there was some confusion about what the law actually said. The second thing that you need to keep in mind is Fervier is not even sure this motion that they've made and passed is legal. He wanted to talk to the Attorney General's office for clarification. Even then, he was allowing the motion to pass, he was attempting to move on the entire time. You've seen that. The only parts of this video that are edited are the pauses and silence. Everybody's words, minus the ones I took out from Member Gazal, are in their entirety and unedited. And now is the part that Representative Mills described to the Blue Ribbon Committee as the dysfunction and dishonesty of John Fervier. I'll let you judge for yourself if what he is saying rises to the level of being called dishonest in a public hearing.
Well, I will consider that. So I'm not prepared to answer that right now.
Mr. Chairman, all due fairness, I understand that this is a new idea and a new concept. But to say that you would consider what the majority of this board has just asked you and me to do is to be in defiance of the board.
No, I did not say, I didn't say yes or no. I said that this was brought on me as a surprise, today at the board, and I want to consider that. I carefully consider it, so.
Hang on. Let's go back to the Blue Ribbon Committee, back to Thursday, the 28th, where Representative Mills, as executive director of the state election board, recounted this story to the Blue Ribbon Committee. So here he is again, in his own words, describing this exchange.
Representative Fleming, if this task force passes a measure and they said, are you going to follow through on it? And you said, I'll take it under consideration. That's dysfunctional. And frankly, it's dishonest. Your committee is instructing you to do something, and for you to say you'll take it under consideration, and this is not a personality clash. I am working with Chairman Fervier, and I will continue to work with him because I want the state of Georgia to move forward. But you've asked me to speak, and you need to know this. And again, I take no joy in saying it. It grieves me. And if I did take joy in saying it, then every one of you ought to rebuke me because that's not right.
Now let's go back to the SEB hearing and see how the exchange between Mills and Fervier wrapped up. And I want you to pay very close attention to the accusation part because it shows some serious friction really between these two individuals. And then tell me in the comments section if I'm reading this whole situation wrong. And there's something else I want to be clear about because it's possible for two things to be true at one time. I think the question about if there are going to be issues that is asked by Representative Mills is a fair one if it's offered in good faith. But it doesn't feel like it was offered in good faith. It was asked and it was answered several times. Fervier explained himself about why he had doubts, and framing that response from Fervier as dishonest is itself a dishonest thing to say when you see the entire exchange for yourself.
Well, I want to be able to do, and I certainly don't want to be, y'all have asked me to do this. This is not something I'm dreaming of. I want to be able to do what I'm being asked to do. And I don't want to call over to the Secretary of State's department and say, can you put this meeting on schedule? And then have you behind the scenes saying, no, don't do it. That's not going to be a good working relationship. So I want to clarify that right now. So there's no issues like that going on.
Well, I don't think it's proper for you to make accusations like that against me right now, not knowing what I'm going to do. And to surprise me with things like this at the last minute at a board meeting, I don't know how you would expect me to respond to that without considering it. So my answer is when I've considered it, I will give you an answer.
Okay, and let me clarify. I'm not making any accusations. I'm only giving an example that if that happens, I don't want it to happen. So I'm asking the board to think that through so that when I call, I'm able to do what I'm asked to do. That's the only point I'm making.
You made a point, and I've made a point that I will consider what this board has voted on, and I will consider that. So,
and to be clear, Mr. Chair, I was under the impression that this would be something that you would be open to, considering the amount of work that you've already discussed how much extra work, how many hours you've put into this volunteer job. You've mentioned that several times. So I thought that this would be us taking something off of your plate that would allow you to free up some of your time. So the fact that there is so much pushback on it is alarming.
I haven't pushed back on it. I haven't given an answer on it, yes or no.
Okay.
So there has been no pushback from me. There's been no answer from me. I said that I would consider it. Like I said, this is a last minute request that I was not aware of prior to 5 minutes ago, and I will consider it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, life's full of last minute
things that happened when I walked into the SEB office and basically had no help. Well, hello, that was a surprise.
We just hope going forward, we're able to address this accurately.
Any other comments or questions from the board on this? Let's move forward then into old business. Next item on the agenda is enhanced voting paper ballot image oversight.
So these are the people tasked with enforcing our election laws. Mr. Mills came to the Blue Ribbon Committee with a tale of dysfunction. And he is right about that. This board is not functioning the way it should or the way it was intended. It has devolved into a he said, she said, really, middle school stuff. Only this time there's video evidence of who said what and what they were really trying to say. And to be clear, this whole board seems pretty dysfunctional to me, and I'm not the only one who thinks so. I received the following text message from Representative Victor Anderson after the hearing, who is the chairman on the standing committee in the House of Governmental Affairs, which handles election law. And he's also a member of the Blue Ribbon Committee. And this is what he said, and I'm quoting here. We knew there were issues within the SEB. We didn't realize until we were deep into testimony just how fractured the board is. It is obvious that legislative action to repair and correct many of these issues may be necessary. Our committee will prepare recommendations for the upcoming session to address much of the problems discussed as part of our plans to improve the processes, effectiveness, transparency, and accuracy of elections in Georgia. We must have elections that promotes trust, confidence, and participation. So, Representative Anderson, Chairman Anderson, didn't mention any specific legislative action. So I don't know what legislative action this committee is planning to recommend when he refers to legislative action. But I think the committee is completely justified, based on what we're seeing here, that if they choose to recommend this board be folded and start over from scratch, they have everything they need. And it was given to them by the people who came and testified in front of the board. Mr. Mills is right. It's a dysfunctional board. But there's no introspection to see his role in that or the other members in their role and just how dysfunctional it is. There's a lot of talk about why this board is 3-2 when there are 4 Republicans. Is it possible? Is it just possible that John Fervier has been acting as a firewall against some of the things that we've seen here? That 3 versus 2, because they're trying to go after the chairman, assassinate his character, have an employee of the committee come and testify and say he's the most dishonest person he's ever served under in 30 years of government. I think that's the way I'm starting to see it. When Janelle King was asked by the media about her response to the Attorney General of Georgia saying that their rules at the last minute last year would not withstand legal scrutiny, he was right. Internal Vigilance Action sued and won that lawsuit. He was right. Her reaction was, well, that's just the opinion of one attorney. If you're a serious-minded person, you take that, and then you take the first episode in this series where Janelle King articulated very clearly she supports vote buying under certain conditions and was given opportunity to back out of it, to reverse course by the Democrat, Cyber Draper, who was asking her those questions. She doubled down and said, no, vote buying is okay. She didn't call it vote buying, but that's what it is. when you hear stuff like that coming out of the 3 members that make up the majority, isn't it possible that John Fervier is just acting as a firewall here? And look, if he has to go and in order for us to scrap this thing and start over, I haven't talked to him about it, but I kind of wonder if it wouldn't be a relief to him. So again, I don't know if the board's going to get scrapped. I don't know that. But again, the legislature would be justified if they went down that road. And the evidence is right in front of us. This has been a special episode of Peach Pundit the podcast. Thank you for listening. I know this is a departure from our normal format, our normal topics. There was no buzz here. There's no pie to talk about other points of view. So that's where you come in. You can just go ahead and like, subscribe, add a comment. Tell me where I'm wrong. Let's talk about it. Every month we have people who, we call them the people who rock. They voluntarily reach into their pocket. They head on over to patreon.com/peachpundit and they sign up for one of our tiers. And they're the people who keep us going. They are Ken Pullen, Kenyatta Mitchell, Eric Johnson, Sergio Ortega, Bill Werkheiser, Bethany Ballard, Justin Wright, Brett Harrell, Reed Powell, John Vestal, Ryan Graham, Bo Brennan, our anonymous contributor who wants you to know more about the Alzheimer's Association, Mike Buchert, Ron Daniels, Stuart Wilkinson, Robert Lee and our friends at Lee6 Media, Tony West and our friends at Americans for Prosperity, Colin Martin, James Hall, Ryan Purvis, Hank Burnham, Jeff Cobble, Shannon Ferguson, Jordan Reed, and Sam Thomas, the original Patreon. Thank you all again. Again, if you want to join them, you can head on over to patreon.com/peachpundit. Like and subscribe. We'll catch you next time.